But when we get power back, it's time to hold everyone accountable. The military leadership, the civilian leadership, the civil service, those in Congress who've abused their power.
There is no justification for sending 30 friggin' FBI agents to the former president's compound in Mar-a-Lago. This is the worst attack on this republic in modern history, period.
The FBI right now is the Gestapo.
This is some third world bull right here. Let me say it again. Third world bull. I mean every word of that.
How about the Benghazi scandals? How about the Clinton Foundation? I mean, how many, shady oligarchs from Russia were contributing to that? How about Uranium One? You want to talk about, scandals that were never investigated?
Joining me now, Doug Jones, former Democratic senator from Alabama and former U.S. attorney, and Shermichael Singleton, former Republican political consultant and host of the Screen Share show on Peacock. Former Senator Jones, I'll start with you. We just had breaking news that Scott Perry, a Trump ally and Republican member of Congress from Pennsylvania, has released a statement to Fox saying, hey, they took my cell phone. They grabbed my cell phone. Do you think that this could be in some way connected to what we saw in the raid yesterday? Do you think it's just part of the DOJ's overall investigation into people allied with Trump? Because at this particular point, everything that happens in the 24 to 48 hours after this raid, people are going to try and link back to what happened at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, and it could be. We just don't know. I mean, that's the thing about FBI investigations and Department of Justice investigations. There is so much that we won't know for some time. Hopefully there will be a time relatively soon where more information will be available. We're just not going to be able to see it for a little bit because we don't know exactly where this investigation is moving. What we do know is that there were classified materials at Mar-a-Lago, boxes that were taken out when Donald Trump left the White House. They retrieved some. Some of them were torn up and had to be taped back together. They tried to get others and they couldn't get it. So they had to execute a search warrant. And I will tell you that this was carefully thought out. But believe me, the Attorney General of the United States fully understood the ramifications of this, both politically and legally. And they dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's, and we'll get more information later.
Shermichael, how is this all resonating behind the scenes in the Republican Party right now? Now, look, publicly, everybody's going to say, oh, my gosh, this is an outrage, this is terrible, everything else like that. But privately, are people concerned? Is money going to dry up? Do you have people saying, oh, my gosh, did I leave my wallet there? Am I in trouble, too? What's going on behind the scenes, behind the brave faces on the part of the Republican Party right now?
Yeah, Doc, thanks for that question. I mean, I took the opportunity to reach out to several former colleagues from previous political campaigns that I've worked on, many of whom are still involved with the RNC. Some are working on some current Senate elections across the campaigns, rather, across the country. And the responses were interesting. I had a few folks who said, I really thought that even if Trump were to run, that DeSantis probably would continue to move up in the polls. As one friend said, man, this is crazy because even if DeSantis were to try and run now, I'm almost certain that Trump is certainly going to be the nominee in 2024. This isn't good for the party. Others said that this is a great opportunity for the party to fundraise off of, that the president probably should even announce early because it will likely galvanize Republican voters in ways that Republicans have been trying to replicate, that they haven't been able to do so effectively without Trump really being out there, without giving those voters the red meat, if you will. And so politically, Doc, the answers, the responses that I've gotten from colleagues have varied. Some folks just are not happy at all. And I know a lot of viewers who are watching the network are going to say, Shermichael, DeSantis is as worse or worse than Trump. But from a Republican perspective, Doc, a lot of insiders sort of view DeSantis as someone who could bring some normalcy back, regardless of what you think about his political ideology. I'm just giving the thought process here. And many of them articulated to me that they don't think that really matters anymore because now that this has occurred, Trump will now portray himself as a victim. He's going to likely fundraise a lot more, which he's been doing rather effectively up until this point. And more than likely, again, he will probably move up his announcement date. And my friends that I talked to who do like him, who are working on those campaigns, said they don't see that as a bad thing.
I don't see how DeSantis can be more normal. This is a guy who goes after Buzz Lightyear and Mickey Mouse and says that there's some, link to pedophiles. But I've got to ask you, I want to get your response to the statement from DeSantis after the raid yesterday. He said the raid of Mar-a-Lago is another escalation and the weaponization of federal agencies against the regime's political opponents. While people like Hunter Biden get treated with kid gloves, now the regime is getting another 87,000 IRS agents to wield against its adversaries. Banana Republic. Look. If there's anybody who has tried to weaponize government against their political enemies, it's Ron DeSantis. When you hear a statement like this, is this just him covering himself because he doesn't want to appear to be giddy that Donald Trump is potentially getting in trouble? Or do you think this is an authentic statement from an otherwise inauthentic autocrat in the making?
I mean, come on, Doc. You're a political scientist. Senator Doug Jones is on the show with us. We know what this is all about. He is trying to portray however he can some normalcy here to say, you know what? I am as concerned about what's going on with Donald Trump. And that statement from a messaging perspective is really intriguing to me, Doc. You and I have talked about the conservative disposition philosophically over the past couple of years now. And it's fair to say that conservatives are generally more skeptical about government and its entities for a whole host of reasons, at least traditionally speaking. And so when I look at that message, what I'm seeing is the weaponization of that philosophical foundational belief of conservatives to sort of say, see, this is why we should be against these government entities, which are supposed to protect us and provide normalcy and protect the institutions of the country. And so that, I would say, is an intellectual maneuver, if you will, that DeSantis, who's a pretty smart guy, is utilizing, where the base may not really see that. But that's sort of the way I view this.
Senator Jones, we also have some information here on continuing investigations that, of course, Republicans will probably not be as angry about now because they're trying to get upset about the raid, where there's a ruling that has upheld the fact that Trump's tax records can now go to the January 6th committee. How significant is that legally, as far as the arguments against Trump about him possibly getting in trouble for financial malfeasance? How important is it politically that now those tax records will be a part of season 2 of the January 6th committee that we'll be getting in a couple of weeks?
Well, I think it's always significant because Donald Trump has gone to such lengths to withhold those tax returns. And everybody has thought, why? Every other presidential candidate has released their tax returns except for Donald Trump. And he has got such tangled web of financial dealings that you've got to figure there's something there that is maybe not illegal, but is certainly not going to look very good in this. And the Republicans tend to move the goalpost. All of a sudden, we've heard nothing from them about January 6th committee. Right. All they said was, let's talk about inflation. Well, now all of a sudden, as the circle gets tighter around Donald Trump, inflation just doesn't seem to be the issue. It is this investigation. And the loudest voices are the most extreme voices. You don't hear a lot of comments from some of the more establishment Republicans right now because they know the significance of a search warrant that was authorized by a United States District Judge, not the Department of Justice. Right. They don't complain when the judiciary overturns Roe versus Wade and overturns gun laws in New York, but let them complain when a search warrant was issued. The hypocrisy is pretty stunning.